Coming to you live from my apartment. It's Rob has a podcast, and now here's the guy who's very sad to report that you can now stuff your Sharis in a sack, mister. I'm Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Big Brother Canada recap here for week number 2 here on Friday the 11th here of March, and very excited to be back here with you. Fun recap underway. And I want to welcome back somebody who has spoken to, I believe, last Big Brother Canada season, the last Big Brother season. He does a great job over on CarterMatt.com. Please welcome back Matt Carter.
Rob, how's it going? I am personally great. I don't have anything to put into the complaint board today. No complaints.
Yeah, no complaining in the podcast Grand Hotel. We do appreciate that. Of course, Matt, in addition to covering Big Brother Canada over on CarterMatt.com, also did preseason interviews with all these people before they went into the house. I'm sure we will get some good insight there as well. And then joining us as well to talk about all things Big Brother Canada, and the Big Brother live feeds, our good buddy Alex Kidwell. Alex, how are you?
Hey, Rob, how's it going? Yeah, I was thinking about doing all that, but I don't know. It's kind of a dirty area, and I just feel kind of above it all, so I think I'm just going to not.
Okay, well, don't feel above it. If it's dirty, we'll get some OxyClean on it. We'll get everything good and squared away. Here we are, ready to talk about. What a week. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times for Livita. And she is living La Vida Loca. She has gone around the world and back, HOH, on the block, back to HOH. We'll talk about all that and more. Take your questions, then we'll get into the live feeds here on a Friday afternoon Big Brother Canada 4 recap. Get your questions in, hashtag RHAP. Scott St. Pierre is going to be reading your Twitter. robhasawebsite.com/YouTube to get the comments in, and we are ready to go. All right. So, Matt, here we are, 2 weeks now down in the Big Brother Canada book. What do you think so far? I came on last week. I was very pumped up about this season. After a second week of Big Brother Canada, how are you feeling?
I am hit and miss. I'll say I'm excited about the fact that I think the cast is all right. There hasn't been any really horrendous, egregious twists that have changed the outcome of the game that aren't in the Houseguest control yet. I'm all right with that. I think the show has done a really not good job at all trying to show us why these people are getting evicted. I mean, we had, Alex and I were talking about, we had to piece a little bit together based on, the live feeds and all that. So they've really messed that up. But it's 2 weeks in. I'm still hopeful.
Yeah, 2 weeks in. I thought it was a kind of a slow week 2 here in Big Brother. I felt like that it actually was saved by the fact that Livita didn't go home and is now back to being HOH. I think that's a pretty compelling story. Pretty rare in Big Brother to go from HOH to almost out the door and back to HOH in the matter of just 2 weeks in the house. So that's a very interesting twist, I think, heading into week 3. Alex, what's been your take? You've been following this so closely these first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the most exciting story right now is, Livita is kind of on that Rachel Riley track, which is just, the highs and the lows of Big Brother, the extremes of the game and kind of what toll that takes. And I think what's really going to be most exciting to see in week 3 is we saw how she played week 1. We didn't get live feeds, unfortunately, but we did see what was attempted to a degree, that some kind of group was formed, that some plan was made, that it all fell apart, that unfortunately, and it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen sometimes, when plans go awry week 1, you find yourself in a really bad spot. So I think what'll be really interesting to look at week 3 is, will she repeat the same mistakes, or will she learn from what happened?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty fun to see how that all plays out. Again, we'll have more on that when we get to the live feeds later on in the show. Also, if you're listening to the audio version of this show, after we're all done here today with this live version, you could listen to my exit interview with Shari that I recorded earlier today. You could hear what she had to say about that here on the podcast version. Matt, I'm sure you also spoke with Shari today. How was she in your exit interview?
She was great. I thought she was really nice. She was concise about what happened on the show. I mean, she basically illuminated her problem on the show, which is just that she didn't want to get down and dirty. She didn't want to make any moves. And I've got a link. It says CarterMatt.com/BigBrotherCanada. That's where the interviews, the live feed of everything that we're doing is right there. But she was exactly how she was pregame. She was nice. She was friendly. She had no real understanding that this is a hard strategic game. Mm-hmm. And this is just the kind of, if it wasn't going to be week 2, it was going to be week 8 or week 9, and she would have been in there a lot longer and not done very much.
All right, so Alex, when we sort of do the autopsy on what ultimately went wrong for Shari, that she ends up getting mixed in with Livita and her group in week 1. I know that we do this on the Survivor podcast, but why ultimately? What was the downfall of Shari in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you saw it a little bit when she was talking about that, she felt like Jared's reasoning was weak in the guilty by association explanation, and I think that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what Big Brother is. Vanessa Russo famously, made it very clear, all you need is a reason, just any reason, to nominate somebody, and that can be as small as, this is your closest ally, and it only makes sense if you've got a target that their closest ally who represents a vote for them should go up next to them. And then on top of all of that, it sounds like the first week, Livita and Shari spent a lot of it, together in the HOH, kind of secluding themselves, putting themselves kind of up in the castle. And we always talk about how that's terrible in the game.
But to me, it just seems like it was pretty unconventional that we ended up seeing Shari go home instead of Livita, who was the ringleader. It wasn't like that Livita was able to take herself off the block with the veto, and it was an 11-to-1 vote. So, Matt, what was the wisdom behind leaving Livita in the house where now she has regained HOH for the second time?
I think this is what gives me hope, because usually with Big Brother seasons, it's okay, let's get rid of all the threats and get all these people out, and then we're left with just like Boredom City for like 3 or 4 weeks near the end. But it seems like this time you've got people like, you've got the brothers, you've got Tim, you've got these people who are these really big, enormous threats, and they're thinking to themselves, okay, how can we make ourselves appear less threatening? Let's keep this extremely over-analytical person who's going to change her mind like every 2 minutes about what she wants to do, who's going to be extremely polarizing, who's going to anger Kelsey, and is going to do all these things versus somebody who's just going to be nice. So it's about keeping a threat versus getting rid of a threat, to me anyway.
The thing that's going to be very interesting to watch is we talked about last week about how Livita, when she became HOH, that she had a base of power in the house and she really just talked to those people. And then, kind of like rats on the Titanic, I'm sure everybody scrambled then away from Livita and Shari as they became toxic as they went up on the block this week. Now, Alex, do you feel like, do they still have, or does Livita still have a base of power inside the house? Again, without getting into anything from the spoilers, does she still have a core group?
She hasn't really retained, like a core group in the sense that they're together all the time, but there are people that just weren't able to double back week 2 and get in with the Jared group. There were people that were just never going to have that opportunity, and so kind of by default they're left on the outside with Livita, and those are like the Maddies and the Ramsays, and then obviously once Dallas was revealed to be the 4th vote, kind of Dallas falls in that group too, where it's like, you have kind of 2 sides with a lot of people in the middle and, to varying degrees kind of slightly on one side or slightly on the other. And so while Livita, now that she doesn't have Shari, she almost represents that side alone, there are a few of these people who are like much closer to her side than the others, simply by default almost.
Now, Matt, going back to Jared and the way that he ran his HOH week, and it really has been this sort of back and forth so far between that we saw Livita come into power, she targeted Jared's showmance, Jared came into power, he targeted Livita, she stays. So how do you feel like Jared ultimately did in his HOH week, where he seemed to probably want to start to go after the person who went after his showmance, but ultimately doesn't finish the job and leaves her in the house? How do you feel like he did in his week as HOH?
If I was to give him sort of a 1 to 10 scale, I'd say maybe like 6.5. I mean, I think Livita's thing's not great. I think at the same time, this is a very weird sort of showmance, the whole Jared Kelsey thing, because usually it's, the bro who is the big threat everybody wants to get, but Jared just seems like he's just chilling, he's low-key, people seem to trust him, he didn't seem to come out of this with a whole lot of blood on his hands. It's like Kelsey who has like all the fire around her and all these people kind of thinking about getting rid of her. I mean, for an outgoing HOH, I've seen worse than I've seen for Jared. I think Jared will be fine. People will go to Jared again.
How would you describe, Matt, the most powerful alliance in the house? That big group. Can you give me just a sense of a head count of who's in there?
Okay, so the three that were kind of in power this week, you've got Jared, you've got Kelsey, you've got Raul. There are this kind of three close-knit sort of group, and then you've got Cassandra, who's kind of joined up with them a little bit. There's been talk, about her knowing Jared pregame, and they're called the Four Aces. And then you've got some other people who are just kind of jumping around all over the place. You've got, Joel, you've got Mitch. I really like both those guys. I think they're both doing a really good job, who are kind of just floating around the middle. They're jumping wherever. I mean, Tim's kind of in that same place right now. And they all seem to be the main voting group, but there's no cohesive block. This isn't one of these seasons where there's no bomb squad. There's nothing that's just controlling everything. At least that's my perspective. Maybe Alex sees it a little differently.
Well, Alex, in Big Brother Canada, we've seen through at least the first 3 seasons that showmances always play a big part in how things ultimately fall together with these alliances. So do you want to just quickly talk through the showmances right now?
Sure. I mean, the clear one obviously is Jared and Kelsey. I mean, that's the one that kind of emerged early on, was made prominent on the show, and kind of hasn't really gone anywhere. And, it's made more interesting by the element of Raul being, in with those guys thick as thieves. I mean, all 3 of them slept together in the HOH this past
What's going
week.
on there?
Well, there's an element of Jared was kind of uncomfortable with the idea that, like, him and Kelsey were, like, cast to hook up. Like, I posted something on Twitter about, Big Brother Canada's choosing of Jared and Kelsey, and it was the meme of Mike Tyson with 2 pigeons, and it says, "Now Kith." And, like, to me, that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's like they picked people, and they were designed to hook up. So I'm sure there is an element of that that's weird to Jared and weird to Kelsey. And it's taken some, like, getting used to. Like, yes, I click with this person, but I'm supposed to. You know what I mean? And it's like some Truman Show-esque type of stuff there. So that was kind of getting to him. He didn't want to sleep up there alone with Kelsey, even though that's kind of the way it was trending. So he was kind of like hoping Raul would join him, and Raul's really close with them. He had no problem doing it. So but it ended up being, like the 3 of them now are so thick as thieves, and they really are seen as a 3-headed monster, almost like the Oz twins were this summer at this point.
But do they invite Raul in as to be some sort of, like, intentional blocker, but to ensure that nothing ends up happening, or is Raul closer to either Jared or to Kelsey?
Well, it's like Raul and Kelsey are super, super close. But then, there was a conversation where, like, Kelsey's out of the room, and Jared did present it to Raul as though, like, dude, please be here just, because it would be good to have you here so that nothing happens. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. There's kind of, they're each approaching it from a different dynamic a little bit, I think. But it's an interesting triangle for sure.
I'll say. Boy, this could be a romantic comedy, right, Matt?
Oh, I'm all for it. Or it's the Three's Company remake. Everybody's
knock on our door.
Right. This is pretty wild, because I mean, you typically have, so many times in different movies and TV shows you see that the woman has the gay best friend, but this is the gay best friend of the guy and the girl.
And then there's the strategic element too. I mean, if these 3 stay together for a long time, what if both of them want to keep Raul over each other? Like, what happens there?
Yeah, he's in a good position. This is fascinating to see how this ultimately develops. Okay, so Kelsey and Jared we know about. That's more on the nose. But what about some of these other relationships, Alex?
Yeah, so we saw it most recently on last night's episode, and it's legitimate as the Nick and Maddie kind of connection that Phil is not a fan of. I mean, Phil, obviously he wasn't thrilled about the idea of having to share his game with Nick to begin with. And one thing they have done really well is kind of position themselves in that, Phil really has stayed close with the Jared group and been in the know there, while Nick has, worked on relationships with Maddie and Ramsay and that whole group. But, yeah, I mean, Phil is really concerned because there's a lot less people on that side. So if Nick is really, really putting himself, pigeonholing himself with Maddie for long periods of time, I mean, it probably will be a lot quicker time. It'll be a lot sooner that their number will be up. So I think he's very concerned that Nick being associated with Maddie will put them on the chopping block within the next couple of weeks.
Now, is there any jealousy between the brothers there, Alex?
No, I don't think so. I think Phil's definitely a flirtatious guy, and he's clearly single, but I don't think he has eyes for Maddie at all.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Tim and Nikki because they were such a big part of the story this week where they came into the house following last Thursday's episode, and we got to see a lot of them. Matt, are you on board with everybody that on the Tim train?
Oh, I'm on the Tim. I'm driving the Tim train.
Driving the Tim train?
Yes. I mean, I'm conducting it. I've got the hat. No, I love Tim. I'm not a Big Brother Australia guy, so I wasn't really that familiar with him. I found out like maybe a tiny period of time before I spoke to him pre-game that he was going to be on the show, so I didn't have a lot of time to research him. And, you know, I'd obviously heard of Jay's, but then just kind of the dichotomy between the two. And Tim just comes on. He's so nice. He's friendly, he's funny. You want to just give him a big hug and fall in love with him and have tea with him and his grandmother, who he told me he loves to do all the time. And he's a good player, and he's funny, and he's interesting, and I really liked him. And I mean, Nikki is obvious entertainment. I mean, clearly they put Nikki up against Veronica from Big Brother Italy, she's not even the most popular Veronica in Big Brother Italy history, by the way. I googled her name, and there's another Veronica who had like some huge lesbian love story on one of the other seasons. And
wow.
Yeah, I was really confused. I didn't know which Veronica it was for the longest period of time. But no, I love Tim. I think Tim is amazing. He's funny. I'm not super confident that he's going to win, and you know, I worry that he's going to get so much airtime that we're going to have like no clue in a few weeks who anybody else is. I mean, that's legitimate. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Alex, you think we're in danger of Tim fatigue?
I hope not. I mean, certainly he has, like, ever since he's entered the house, he really has hogged the TV airtime. But, you know, I think, you know, it'll be interesting to see because I think he's very creative and very clever. And you can tell watching the feeds that he's always thinking. So, you know, there was 1 week here where kind of there was no pressure and they weren't really part of the game. I mean, they had a vote, but you know, they weren't into the game like they are now. So I think going forward, it'll be more interesting to see a strategic element introduced to their game, especially Tim's.
Now, he seems to me like the ultimate triple threat here in the Big Brother Canada because he is, one, you know, dominating the airtime, two, has become a fan favorite, and three, seems like what he's doing is actually working well in the game. Alex, how long do you think he could keep that going for?
You know, I think it really comes down to the fact that this season the level of quality in terms of gameplay seems to be lower than like last season. There's definitely less super fans. There seems to be less people who really get the game and know what they're doing and have watched past seasons. So I think his odds are better in a season like this than they would be in most seasons, simply because people don't necessarily know that that's someone they should be worried about.
So, Alex, do you see this potentially as sort of like a Boston Rob Redemption Island type situation where you have somebody coming back on their third or fourth time playing against a bunch of people who are newbies? Do you think that we are in danger of Tim just running circles around this house?
I think the difference is if you look at that cast and look at this cast, there are at least 2 or 3 individuals who could present a real problem for Tim and have already, to some degree, had some kind of moment where they demonstrated they have a wherewithal of how bright he is, how clearly he's constantly thinking, and the knowledge that he's going to have to be dealt with at some point in time. So I don't see it as being that clear-cut. Certainly I think he's in a great spot. I don't think he's in the best spot of anyone in the house right now.
Matt, could Big Brother 13 be a better example where you had the returning players mixed in with all of the newbies?
I can see a little bit of that, and you've got somebody who knows the game very well, and I think what Tim has done that's so effective is that he is kind of making himself out that he's kind of this, you know, doofus when it comes to Big Brother US and Canada. But the guy did his research. He knows what's going on. I think the one difference between this and Big Brother 13 is I don't know, there's not really a whole lot of veteran presence around him that knows all the things that are happening and all those inner machinations. I mean, Nikki and Tim, clearly they're not going to turn on each other. At least that's the narrative that's been set up. But I haven't gotten the impression from Nikki either on the show or in interviews or anything else that she's really that into the strategy, that she's going to think of some brilliant backdoor plan. So I think he's still kind of on his own in that aspect.
Now, Alex, to me that Nikki just seems like she's on her own show, that she's just like sort of existing in the house, oblivious to whatever else is going on in the game, and ultimately she doesn't care at all how she places in Big Brother Canada. It doesn't mean a hill of beans to her whether she comes in 4th or 8th or anything like that. Am I wrong about Nikki?
I think you're probably right, but I think even if you're wrong, that's the perception inside and outside of the house, and that's all that really matters, because, you know, perception is reality in Big Brother. We talk about that all the time, and the mere fact that she projects that everyone sees that and interprets that as being who she is, means she's one of the safest players in the house. I mean,
maybe
why?
I'm being too hard on Nikki.
Well, no, I think it's a reasonable point, but right. I mean, you know, she's losing it, and she wasn't even like on the block. She's not eligible to be on the block. You know, I think, you know, it makes you wonder, like, why waste an HOH on Nikki? You know, but yeah, I think she's got longevity in the game simply because of her utter lack of a threat.
Yeah, but could she get on everybody's nerves to some degree?
It could happen, but I think, you know, it really helps her having Tim there, because like they buffer each other in a way where Tim is able to kind of make fun of her, and then it becomes humorous more so than obnoxious. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, let's all laugh at how ridiculous Nikki's being, and then she'll laugh at herself later when she calms down, and Tim is able to kind of facilitate that. And it's really good, because if Nikki's not going to play a strategic game and she wants to work with Tim, then that means Tim is thinking and voting for 2, and that's beautiful in the game. You want that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So in addition to Tim, the 2 names that I keep hearing about that people are happy about what they're doing, I feel like, are Mitch and Joel. Matt, could you speak to the games being played by those 2 players?
Yeah, I'll start with Joel, because I think Joel is super interesting to me. I spoke with him pregame, and I thought I had him labeled as first person out. I didn't think this guy had any hope in the world. For those who don't know, which I'm assuming is most, I was on a show a long time ago called Beauty and the Geek, and on it, there was a guy on my season named Jonathan, and Jonathan was like the oldest guy on the show, and he was kind of this older, awkward, really awkward guy, and whereas, you know, I could go in there and be like really pathetic and really, really nerdy, and everybody was like, oh, everybody was just put off and uncomfortable by this Jonathan. He was a nice guy in real life, but on that show, and so I thought that Joel was going to come in here and be kind of this older nerd who just couldn't relate to anybody, but he's kept that at bay really well. He's kind of towed the line between being strategic and laying back. He's gotten to know people. He's still gotten a little bit of that endearing stuff going on. People really like him. I mean, Mitch is kind of the same way. I think they've got a lot of flexibility, and that's what you want in the first couple weeks. You just don't want to do anything stupid, and you don't want to make anybody angry. It's like whatever Haley Ford said in that one video, just don't be an idiot. You'll be okay.
Yeah. So let's stick with Joel for a minute, too,
Okay.
because I think I had Joel wrong also. I thought that Joel was going to be out pretty early. I thought that he was going to be seen as somebody who was super schemy and somebody who people weren't going to trust very much in the house. But he does really seem that he's super earnest, and he's he's really a nice guy. We had the revelation on the show this week about that. He is somebody who has Tourette's, which is something that I didn't know about him going into the house. And then that OxyClean challenge that he got to do this week. I mean, again, part of it that we always say with Big Brother Canada is just get to the point where you could win some superpower from Canada, and you have to figure that he's going to be in the running considering the positive edit that he has. Alex, did you enjoy Joel when he was doing this?
Oh, so dirty. I just touched the girl's panties.
He felt really bad, right, when they had to everybody got yelled at him.
Yeah, no, that would be like some Andy Kaufman level acting if he was making that up. That is genuine.
No, I don't
what
think
you see is what you get with Joel. Yeah.
So, but for Joel, I mean, don't you feel like he's on that track right now where he is in the mix to be Canada's favorite?
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he reminds me of Bill Nye the Science Guy right now.
Yeah. Well, Bill Nye the Science Guy is probably more Mitch, the Science Guy, who is somebody who he has really not dominated the airtime, but everything that he's been doing so far from what we've seen on the show has been pretty stellar as well. So let's talk Mitch a bit, Matt. What's been your take on him?
I like him a lot too. I think the difference between, Joel and Mitch in my head is just, there's always the setup of expectations. It's you come into a season thinking, oh, this person's going to be, automatically a really great player. And then they are, and so you're okay, it's just as expected. Whereas Joel, thought he was going to be such a train wreck, and he turned out to be really fun. But I think Mitch is doing amazing. He's got good relationships. He hasn't ticked anybody off. I don't think, Alex can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think anybody has been like, who we really need to get rid of? We need to get rid of that guy who I really like. So he has just done a great job of being in everybody's ear. And there's a little bit of Andy Herron in him, and I'm sure people on Twitter will have a reaction to me saying that, but I've seen him pop up in almost every room anytime something is going on.
Yeah, that's good. So, Alex, how much have Mitch and Joel been on the same page?
It seems very frequently. In fact, it seems like those two guys have been kind of, at the nucleus of the house, So you have if you have polarizing sides with Livita on one side and kind of Kelsey on the other, that was initial friction that still exists. I think the very center point would be Joel and Mitch. And it's interesting because Mitch is very low key, and I think Joel is probably the kind of guy who came in with a bunch of anxiety and probably really benefited, much like Ian did, from a week one immunity. He ended up winning safety that first week, and I think that's great for a guy like Joel who can really kind of allow himself to get his feet and feel comfortable and make connections without the fear of, a ticking clock. Like, I have to make this connection in day one or I'm in trouble. So, he was, kind of on that end. And then on the other end, Mitch is just a very cool customer. I mean, he's just in the house, very low key. If I had one word for his game right now, it's just patience, because he's just doing enough in that he's, checking in with everybody, making sure he's getting in kind words to everybody, making sure everybody has a good impression of Mitch. But he's very quick to divert anytime anyone tries to get his opinion about, like, well, who would you go after, or who do you see yourself with in this game? He's quick to point out the other groups and divert away from himself. And so he's showing a lot of signs of kind of what you look for from good game players in this.
All right, let's talk about some of the other stories from the week. Let's go on the other side of the ledger, somebody that did not have such a great week, or at least such a great start to the week. Let's talk through Dallas.
Oh, boy.
He was on the wrong side of the numbers last week, then tried to pretend that he wasn't. We did see that on the show. I believe that was on the Sunday night episode. We also saw him farting in a jar earlier this week. Matt, I thought that coming into the season that Dallas was going to be okay. I liked what I saw from him on his bio and his preview. Did you get a sense of how he was going to be doing when you talked to him preseason?
All right, here comes the shame, Rob. I had Dallas as my runner-up because I thought this guy was going to be, like, not as good as John Party, but in that sort of vein, East Coast, a little bit blue-collar. He seemed very nice, kind of humble. And, like, so far, he is, like, rivaling Paul Jackson as, like, most terrible first couple of weeks of the game. Let me just count the ways in which Dallas has been terrible so far in this game. Like, his girlfriend has already been evicted from she evicted herself from the relationship after she watched the feeds.
Tell me. I didn't know this story. So tell me what happened.
Okay. All right. So it used to be that Dallas's, official BB Can Twitter said, run by his girlfriend and family. And then after the first couple episodes where Dallas, was like had a couple of women in his arms, the bio changed to run by his friends and his family. And based on some other scuttlebutt I have, seen elsewhere, maybe it's not completely over, but she's not thrilled with the way that he has been presenting himself, aka that. Plus now, that was before Jar Fartgate, however you want to call that. And that was terrible. The flip-flopping was terrible. He's made no real friends or allies as far as I can tell. He's just been kind of gross, and the only reason Paul may be worse than him is because Dallas has just either stumbled across the inability to not win anything or he has been given zero power. But if Dallas had power, the house would be on fire right now.
Alex, what's been your takeaway on Dallas?
Yeah, no, I mean, I had really high hopes for him, I won't say really high hopes. I definitely had high hopes, I thought he represented a lot of, kind of what was good about, like you said, John, just kind of the life of the party, or even obviously I hate, to do it just because of the beard, but I really did get svelte Spencer Clausen. You know what I mean? Like just a little bit. You know, because Spencer was really good at just relating to people. Like that's something that can't be taught so well, and something that, you know, like certainly in the first episode when you see him like making drinks and handing them to people and really being welcoming and inviting, I think that's all good stuff, you know. But like somewhere along the line, he just like got in his own head and just decided to play the game too hard. And yeah, I mean, he's just making some decisions now that are just total head scratchers.
Okay. Can you speak to them, or those are going to be in the live feeds?
No. I mean, yeah, like the, you know, like the vote and like the jar. I mean, yeah, like these are things that like, you know, like what's the upside to giving Cassandra your smelly fart jar?
Well,
you know what I mean?
I will let me ask about that. No pun intended. Was there any blowback from that?
I mean, like, yeah, Cassandra was not happy, and it just furthered the fact that like Dallas was trying to pin that fourth vote on Cassandra. So it's not like this was a buddy of his in the house that he was playing a joke on. Like this is his enemy in the house, and he gave her a fart jar. Yeah. So like he's not doing himself any favors in the game.
No, what made that even worse was that Tim told him to do that, and he was just like, okay, like that was the greatest idea he had ever heard. Like, you know, Tim could have just told him to like put farts in like 100 jars, and he would have done it. It makes no sense.
And that's another big red flag if you're just gonna like, you know, jump when someone says to do it.
No, I was pretty horrified by that whole thing because it was like, okay, well, it seemed harmless when Tim had the idea, but then when Dallas actually went into the bathroom to deliver it, I felt like that was too much for me. That was a bridge too far. I felt like I could have lived with through denim, because that's sort of like a filter for anything. It's like, okay, that seemed harmless to me, but this seemed like a public health risk, considering the way that he went about that, Alex.
Yeah, Dallas doesn't know how to, like, you know, take things easy. Like, if he's going to do something, he's going to, like, go all out about it. You know what I mean?
He's like
that kind of guy. He's a full tilt kind of guy, for sure.
And the worst part about it to me is that he was so, like, smug and happy about this achievement. It reminded me of, like, Stephen Baldwin on Celebrity Apprentice when he would raise, like, no money for his team and be so happy about his achievement. Like, you did nothing.
So, if the veto was used this week, we would have seen Dallas go up, but it was not. It was won by our lovely housekeeper, Christine, who was the big winner in the Mike Bell brick competition. Now, Matt, as a native Canadian, are you familiar with Mike Bell?
Also, in the 5 years in which, you know, I was in Canada full time, I heard Mike Bell's voice. Like, I'm more familiar with, like, people who are cashiers at the grocery store than I am with Mike Bell. I have no clue who this guy is. I bought a couch from the brick, so, you know, the furniture's fine. But Mike Bell, Jordan did this whole rant about it that I cannot even replicate because it was so tremendous. But Mike Bell is, like, the biggest Canadian no-name celebrity I have ever heard. It's like was nobody better available. Could you not get Alan Thicke? Can you not get Alex Trebek? Like, anybody from a show but Mike Bell.
No, I don't think it was so much that they wanted to get Mike Bell. I think that was probably part of the money that the brick gives to Big Brother was like, all right, here's part of the negotiation.
And to be fair, I've talked to the executive producers before, and they've said that, you know, their sponsors are really important to the show, and as much as we like to complain about OxyClean and the brick, they've got to put these segments in there, so we just got to deal with it.
We have to deal with it. So I have a hot take about the veto competition. When we saw that Christine was going to win the prize, she had to pick the right cushion. I believe, no matter what cushion she picked, it was going to be a winner. What do you think of that? How does that for tinfoil hat theory?
I'll wear that tinfoil hat because I think her winning the veto is It's an interesting proposition with her, especially since it gave Christine something to freaking do.
But not so much that the veto. I'm talking about that once she had the opportunity to win $10,000 worth of furniture, I think the fix was in. I think that no matter what couch cushion she picked, I don't think that the Mike Bell wanted to come off like a bad guy and be like, oh, sorry, no furniture for you. That's it. I'm Mike Bell. See ya.
You don't think somebody had the sound effect queued up, though? Womp, 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 womp.
Yeah, and what better narrative you give, the
Loser.
mother, the check.
Sorry, you won the veto, but you didn't win any furniture.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, yeah, and then Christine was like, "Oh my God, $10,000 worth of furniture. This is gonna change my life." And then she won it, and she's like, "I'm gonna give it to my kids." Like, I thought it was gonna change your life. $10,000 worth of
Changing your
furniture.
kid's life.
Like, I don't know what's like. If you had the nicest furniture in the world, Alex, would that change your life in any way? If you had, if I gave you, and yet you couldn't sell it, if I gave you $50,000 furniture in your house, would that change your life in any way?
It would change my, lumbar support, but I don't know if I could call that my life.
She's really pumped up. But then she gave it away. But anyway, it's good for Christine. She won the veto. I also think that Christine was like pretty harsh when she decided not to use the veto. She was like, because she could have been like, I decided not to use the veto, but I felt like she really like tried to be the heavy on this, and it's like, you know what, you guys made your mess with this. I'm not gonna bail you out.
But she's the house cleaner. That's her job, is to clean up the mess.
Yeah, that's it. You made your bed. I'm not gonna make it for you. You slept in this bed. That's it.
It was terrible. It was a horrendous speech. Nobody's gonna be targeting her anyways. Just say nothing, and you're good for a month.
So outside of that, she hasn't gotten a lot of airtime. Alex, have you had any thoughts on Christine?
I just, if I were her, I'd be incredibly depressed because now the competition made for the house cleaner, the person with house cleaning, strengths is over. We're not going to have it now again. So that card is out of the deck, and she's got to, move forward knowing that, like, the comp that was made for her based on her own admission preseason of what she's good at, which is remembering what was in rooms in houses. Like, I don't think she's gonna, catch this golden goose a second time. So
no, it's all over.
I also did not love the HOH challenge from last week. I was happy that for like almost the first time I feel like in 2 seasons that Big Brother Canada did an HOH actually in the Thursday show. So I was very happy about that. Maybe that spoke to that they didn't have a ton of stuff for that Thursday show, which I do appreciate. But the prior week's HOH challenge, I really felt like that was like, they were asking questions like basically like, all right, viewers said this question, and it's like basically like something like, these two guys are related to each other, so they're probably like, it's like, well, the guys that are brothers, like I was like, I felt like
with married.
Right, or like there was like a housekeeper joke. It's like, okay, well, who's a housekeeper? It seems like a very straightforward.
Ugh, no good. If these were like real roasts, Comedy Central would never have anything to ever broadcast ever again. Horrible.
I think only Ramsay's makes the cut.
Yeah, well,
that was pretty brutal.
That was my long way about getting to a segue to Ramsay, the man who looks like Drake if Drake got punched in the face. I could see it, though. I see it. And again, we go back to, boy, this is such a popular Big Brother Canada trope where people end up praying with the Muslim person in the house. Are you having shades of flashbacks to Big Brother 2, Alex?
Yeah, and like
Big Brother Canada 2.
Right, Big Brother Canada 2. Right, the Kyle Shore and Adele relationship here. We see it again with Ramsay and Raul. And, it was very touching that, Raul was praying with Ramsay, and that was a sweet moment, but it does feel like a bit of a trope, right? When Ramsay doesn't get any other airtime this week, and then, like, he was doing other things in the house. That certainly wasn't, like, Ramsay's storyline of the week in the house, you know what I mean? So I do worry. It's like, do we just cast caricatures? Like, I hate that idea. I don't want to, throw that out there. It's just, but like, right, you like to think that they cast Ramsay for more reasons than just like, we want representation of kind of different ethnic backgrounds, and we want to be able to show the generic, teaching others about your religion scene, so I hope there's more to it than that.
Okay. All right. So I want to get into questions, and I want to also get into talking about the spoilers. Let me see if we have some questions that are not spoiler related. Scott, let me know in the G chat just how many questions we have that don't have to deal with the spoilers. Let's take one. This is from John Clark, who wants to know, will Arissa be zinging the evicted house guests every week? She asked Shari if she ever saw the show before. Did that strike you as a burn, Matt?
It was a little bit of a burn, and based on what I know about Arissa and talking to her, she doesn't usually burn anybody. She's like everybody's friend. And maybe Arissa was just having a bad day. Maybe she went to get Tim Hortons that morning and it was closed. Something that went terribly awry.
I don't know. She was doing impressions of Nikki Graham in the complaint mirror.
Oh yeah, but it's all tongue in cheek there. Everybody's fine with Arissa doing, which is better than my Nikki impression. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, what are they going to do with that complaint footage? Is that just going to be a finale montage?
Oh, that'll be a Sunday montage, I'm sure.
A Sunday montage?
I would guess. Or, probably, maybe, yeah, I would think certainly it'll be shown Sunday, I would think, and then, I don't know, maybe they'll take it away or...
Yeah, man, somebody has already abused this complaint board. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it won't last all season. It'll get old before too long.
Let's do one more question, then we'll get into the spoilers. From Tony and the Tony 1996. Hey, Rob and the Life of Correspondents, have Big Brother Canada gotten laser with their competitions? They copied challenges from BBUS back to back. Alex, has that bugged you at all?
No, I mean, after a certain amount of time, there's only so many working mechanics of challenges that, we could come up with. I love when I see ingenuity, but I don't expect it every time,
It's fine. We don't need to nitpick the challenges. They're fine. Matt, What do you think?
Okay, I think they're fine. I mean, I will kind of agree with, I think Ian Terry has said this in the past too, that this HOH thing was kind of just, you throw a ball somewhere and it goes into a spot. I mean, we can't act like it was the biggest act of skill in the world. As entertaining as it's going to be, having Livita back in HOH power, I don't love that, but at the same time, this is not the end of the world. After the whole, let's give Brittany a special power for being a half-nut in the final six, I will never complain about anything else Big Brother Canada does with the competition.
Yeah, and I was going to say, as long as they don't go back to the Big Brother 2 comp budget and show in HD people throwing CDs into a Tupperware floating in the pool, we're good. We've been in way darker times. So
yeah,
this is true.
I'm happy.
Okay. Lauren wants to know, Aika, Neha, Mama Day, and Shari, the strong, smart, strategic women tend to get picked off early. Does this trend say anything to this archetype? Well, we got into this a little bit last week on the Week 1 recap, and we said that the sample size was small. Matt, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the sample size is small because, if you're looking at Big Brother Canada, I mean, that's this case to a certain extent. I mean, Netta doesn't meet all of those criteria because she was very low-key at first, but she was really strategic. And then you look at Big Brother US, how do you explain, Vanessa Rousseau? Because Vanessa was never not up front or at the top of an alliance or a threat or anything else. I mean, it's 4 seasons. I think there are bigger issues going on right now.
Okay. All right. SHM 1984 with a Giles avatar says, did Big Brother give Tim and Nikki too much screen time? Half of the episode felt like Big Brother UK. Matt, were you complaining at all about this?
I'm not complaining right now. Right now, I love it because I love Tim, and I want him to be my best friend forever. But this is like 2 months down the road, and we still just have Tim and Nikki, and I have no idea who anybody else is because I still have is that Maddie, Kelsey, Maddie? I as long as that changes and I get to know other people, I'll be okay. For right now, it's like the new fresh thing. It's like a puppy. You bring in a puppy, everybody wants to pet the puppy, everybody wants to look at the puppy, but sooner or later, you got to spread it around.
Yeah. Alex, as a Big Brother purist, did it bother you that we had Tim and Nikki get votes to evict this week even though they were immune from HOA or immune from the block?
I guess, although, the whole, once the international twist was introduced, that kind of, threw everything else out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? It's that was such a huge turn and deviation from everything that has ever been done that there's really no precedent for that. I don't know. I mean, and the vote ended up being 11-1, and they just decided to split their votes to be non-biased anyway, so it didn't end up playing much of a factor. That didn't bother me. I didn't care for the international twist when it was first introduced, but to be honest, like, I worry about what this house would look like without Tim and Nikki. They really are bringing a lot of the entertainment at this point.
Okay, let's do one more question and talk spoilers. Real BG Low, the great Real BG Low. How happy was Rob that Arissa didn't use? You have been given an early checkout from the BB Can Grand for last night's eviction. Yeah, that's too many words. That's too wordy. Matt, in the preseason, did you get any sense from production that they were playing around with catchphrases?
No, and thank God I did not. I mean, that would have been like weeks of just stress and my stomach churning that this was coming. Because I was sitting there that whole time because okay, Shari's getting home. Just do it already, Arissa. Just give the terrible early exit BB Can grant because you're clearly not letting this go, and we'll just move on. But if they've given her one piece of advice, it is to bury that and burn it and never see it again. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, go ahead and muck that saying. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into talking about the spoilers. If you're jumping out here, don't miss Jordan Parhar this Sunday Night Live after the episode on robinswebsite.com and Reality TV wrap-ups. All right, let's talk spoilers.
The Office of Civil Defense has issued the following message. This is
a spoiler.
Warning.
A spoiler.
Warning means that an actual
Spoiler.
against this country has been detected and that protective action should be taken.
Okay. All right.
I've
so
missed
let's
that.
talk about the spoilers going into the beginning of Week 3. It is Livita time once again, and let's see how Livita is doing. What did she learn from her week at the top, her week at the bottom, and that's life. She's riding high again. Alex,
Yeah,
how's Livita doing? What's she thinking?
well, she's upside inside out, Rob. in short, it really is. It's an interesting situation, and I touched on it earlier without really getting into spoilers, but she does seem to be repeating her mistakes from week 1 to a degree. Noms have not happened yet, and we don't know officially what her noms are going to be, but it does seem like she's leaning towards a few different options. None of them are great, and the biggest problem is that she hasn't made up her mind yet. And I think the biggest lesson that she's not learning is who doesn't matter as much as how. And her biggest problem is not coming to a decision quickly and then rallying the votes that she needs to ensure that her plan comes to fruition. She's spending all her time where she's the only one with knowledge, because once you tell nominees they're nominees, they go to work. And so the problem is that she's going to go to work right at the same time that they go to work because she's going to make up her mind right before nominees need to be made. And so she's going to put herself in the hole again.
So who are some of the names that are being bandied about?
It started out that, she was thinking, obviously, the immediate thought is, well, Jared and Kelsey. I mean, they just put her up and Shari up and took out Shari. I mean, it makes perfect sense to go after the third wheel because of what they just did. However, she started to think about it, and she really felt like, floaters are benefiting from this. And there's a degree of truth to it. Like, if we just go back and forth, who wins? Well, the Christines and the Joels and the Mitches who just sit there and let us get bloody on each other and just watch and enjoy. You know what I mean? So she did try to approach and make a deal, and it did seem reciprocated by Jared, and especially Kelsey really seemed to nudge her towards Dallas as like a consensus target. Dallas played both sides. He was lying to both of us. Why can't we come to a mutual agreement on Dallas and move forward? They tried to talk about it moving forward as a 6, which would have been Jared, Kelsey, Raul, Livita, and then she wanted to bring in Mitch and Joel, who she really trusts. The problem is, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, don't do it. But she told them, yeah, that's good, and then she has conversations with other people, and then she brings them back in and voices other concerns. And ultimately, no matter what she does at this point, they're going to feel nervous about honoring a deal if she goes through with taking care of them because she seems so wishy-washy about it. And then if she doesn't, obviously other people are going to, she's just really put herself in a terrible spot no matter what happens at this point.
So, Matt, what is the right move for somebody that's in the position that we're seeing Livita be put in, where she made enemies in the house? She's clearly on the outs. She was on the block. She was saved from eviction this past week. Now here she is. She's back in power. She's got a gun with one bullet in it. Is it better? Does she try to just take out the most powerful person from the side of the opposition, or can she in some way try to appease the people who want to see her out of the house and maybe buy herself some time?
See, to me, I think she's already become a little bit like Icarus. I think she's already flown a little too close to the sun, and I don't know if she can kind of come back from that without it just crashing and burning. I mean, at this point, she's established herself as so hyper-analytical and all over the place that I think it would have just been her best move at this point to realize, you know what, Kelsey is somebody who has been somebody who's clearly held a grudge at some times in the past. That I think at that point it would have just been better to just try to rally everybody around her, try to get rid of this somebody from this trio, and just move forward from there. I mean, yeah, it's possible she could have done like a safe choice, put up like Dallas and Christine, who neither one of them is going to be that upset if they leave the game. She could have done that, but she still would have run the risk of being targeted by this, I guess, four-headed monster now, the four aces. So if I was her after winning HOH, I just would have been like, you know what? I'm going to be a target anyway. I might as well just do it.
Alex, if you got 10 minutes, she won a HOH competition or some sort of Canada prize where she got 10 minutes to speak with one of the U.S.'s premier live feed correspondents, and you got a chance to talk to her, what would you recommend that she does?
I think what she really needs to do is find the doc and go back to day one and not win that first HOH because she was unprepared for the ramifications of it. The problem is that when the house flips on you in week one, you've now almost put yourself in a win or go home scenario. Like, I mean, it's almost Frank Udy-esque where it's like, once it's turned against you, once everything is, I mean, she really doesn't have much of a leg to stand on, and it's going to be hard for her to find it unless she just pours all her trust into a group of people, and she's, as of yet, been unwilling to do that, and she also seems very reactive in the moment to, like, whoever she's talking to. So, Kelsey convinces her of Dallas, and then Mitch convinces her that maybe it's better to target Kelsey. Mitch tells her that what you need to do with your HOH is take out people that other people aren't going to take out, but that will come after you. And so she's leaning towards Kelsey after that, which kind of undoes all the good inroad work she's done with Kelsey. And then kind of Jared comes up and convinces her to kind of go more after, like, Christine and Cassandra, like, more neutral-esque targets. And then now, I mean, the latest I've seen is that Tim is kind of, pushing her in a direction that what she may do is Kelsey and Cassandra, which is, I guess a bit of a half measure, but ultimately, it doesn't matter what the nominees are to me, because she didn't do the most important thing, which is secure the backing to ensure any plan gets,
Would it be of some help to Livita in her HOH basket if she received a copy of Sarah Hanlon's book, How to Win Big Brother?
Well, I mean, she did beg for a triple eviction today, and I do feel like that would be a key element to getting her to where she
Sarah
needs to.
did or Livita did?
Livita did. Livita's really hoping for a triple to kind of pull her out of this jam she's dug herself into.
That would be huge if she could end up pulling that off. So who does she have on her side? Is there anybody at this point, Alex?
I mean, she really thinks she has Mitch and Joel, but obviously they're just, doing and saying the right things. And Tim as well, although Tim and Nikki seem to lean towards her side in that they don't really seem to like a lot of elements of kind of the Jared, Raul, Kelsey power dynamic that seems to be, kind of putting themselves a little bit on a pedestal above the rest of the house. I think she, for the most part, she is kind of alone. Obviously, Ramsay and Maddie don't feel like they have any love coming from the other side, so they're going to feel automatically like they're in with her. But then they also had a conversation where they just don't even know where they stand with her because she's talking to everyone. And, I mean, she does seem to have these same kind of conversations with everyone. She's like, yeah, that makes sense, or I didn't think of it that way. And it just makes you wonder, like, did she really not think of it that way? Like, I mean, it just seems like a lot of her game is just so reactive. And the players who are good at this are the ones that are proactive, the ones that know who they're nominating the moment they win HOH. I mean, it's clear to see that Livita is just kind of a few steps behind with this game.
I mean, do you just see her as somebody who realizes that there's a no-win situation and that's why she can't make a call here because none of the options are good?
I think she's struggling to see it, and yeah, I think she even, suggested she evict herself today. And I think without like coming out and acknowledging and showing like the presence of mind that like, wow, I'm in a tight spot and there's not a lot of good scenarios, I think just that admission and the struggle she's having with the nomination in of itself just demonstrates that she realizes her position is very, very difficult to come out of unscathed. Impossible.
Yeah.
I'm sure that she was saying that in jest, but I have to say that maybe that thought was popping into my head as you were talking about what her options are. I mean, is that even a possibility? Could somebody in, say, like a Dan Giesling funeral-esque way put themselves as HOH up on the block? Would Big Brother allow that, Matt?
I would love it if they did, because I think it would be hilarious. I mean, maybe some purists out there would be like, the rules are changing, let's change it. Whatever, it's an entertainment show. It'd be hilarious. I'd do it. I mean, I don't think anybody in this cast, other than maybe like Tim, is that diabolical that they would even consider it. And for Livita, this isn't even the first time that she's threatened to self-evict. Like, I think she did this like a few times last week too, when things weren't going her way and she just wanted to take her ball and go home.
It just seems like the thing when the writing is on the wall this much that it's like, well, what is she up to? I don't know. Let's not give in. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's something that could be some sort of like a crazy Hail Mary that might just throw everybody off the scent. Like, maybe that this is what she wants. Let's not give it to her. So, all right, Alex, anything else big happening on the live feeds you want to talk about?
Yeah, obviously that's a lot of what's been going on today, and nominations still haven't been made yet. Feeds are down right now, and, we believe that that's what's about to happen. The thing that makes it really interesting, and the thing that makes me suggest that if you haven't watched any feeds of this season yet, that tonight should be the night you watch, is that Joel had a task today in which he won booze. So everyone's been drinking before nominations, and Levita's noms are up in the air, and that's the cocktail for the perfect storm of Big Brother.
Has it been a pretty dry season in Big Brother Canada so far, Alex?
No, actually, they've been pretty frequent with the booze deliveries, and I think it's, it's a big part of why people have been saying this season is so great. I think, there is an element of, people who are not super fans don't have as much of a filter on kind of knowing what they should and shouldn't say and speaking in vagaries. So you get more kind of just diarrhea of the mouth, which is always good for feeds and for TV. But then on top of that, there's also this element of there's been booze most every night. And so I think as a result, you are getting some interesting conversations and some slips of the tongue that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take some more questions from the people watching the show live. And why don't we go back to Ashley in the chat, who wants to know, do you think it was a big mistake for Livita to win the HOH this week? I feel like it's going to ruin all of her work from last week. That's an interesting question. So, Matt, what do you think of this? Did she do a bad job winning the HOH this week?
Maybe, but I mean, I don't know how much her work from this past time was going to stick, because I mean, if she hadn't won it, I mean, who was it? It was one of the bros who would have been in power, and who knows what's going to happen there. And at the same time, like I said earlier, this was such a predictable HOH challenge that like maybe you could just like take your little puck and just go and just throw it all the way down into like a 0 or a 3, but you don't want to look like you're obviously throwing it. So it's kind of a hard thing to make it look like you're throwing it. I think it just kind of is what it is, and she kind of screwed herself up by just getting to this point.
Yeah, Alex, I'm starting to think that maybe that would have been the best move for her to throw this HOH, because maybe she could go under the radar. She surely would have been up on the block as a nomination this week. Probably she most definitely would have been one of the 2 people nominated. But maybe, you end up on that track of being sort of the pawn star, whether you're the AJ or the Spencer or the Victoria, the person who's just going to end up going up on the block every single week, but not being the person that goes home. Maybe is it possible that she could have started to head down that path?
No, I agree with you. I think either route are pretty low percentage, kind of based on the hole she had dug, as Matt was talking about. But I think that I lean towards what you're talking about, which is like if you're going to go one route, if you're either going to go aggressive or conservative at this point in the game, it's week 3. I think, I would rather take my chances hoping I can work myself back into the fold and, find safety for extended periods of time versus kind of going big right now and basically ensuring that I have to win HOH or Veto the rest of the way.
Okay. Let's get some more questions. This is from Edward Morris, who wants to know, with the goodwill that Tim has, can a non-Canadian win? Matt, what do you think about this? Is there any issue that you think that there would be any sort of outrage if a non-Canadian won Big Brother Canada?
I don't think there would be outrage. I mean, there were some people who were upset when they got cast who were kind of just saying, oh, they took places away from other Canadians. And they're saying, who knows, they were going to cast any more, Canadian people anyway. Do I think he can win? I'm not going to go, Rodney, give him like a 0.000% chance or anything. But I think he's got a chance. I just think it's a pretty small one because he's just so likable and so charismatic, and he's already won the game, and people know that I think once he gets down to final 7, final 6, if he's still there, he's going to really just have to put on like one of the wildest comp sprees that we can ever possibly imagine. So I mean, I would love it. I'd be really entertained. But
what about the fan reaction? Will Canada be rioting if a non-Canadian wins Big Brother Canada?
We're too nice Canadians.
Nice.
We don't. Well, actually, no. There were some riots in Vancouver after a Stanley Cup game, but I think they will be okay. I think there have been bigger riots in Canada after Topaz Gate in season 1. There were close to riots. I don't think it's going to be anything close to that.
Yeah, Scott St. Pierre, you let me know also. Let me know if what the reaction is going to be to that. Okay, follow up on Tim. Besides Mitch, is anybody else catching up on Tim's gameplay? Who's going to lead to Tim's downfall? Alex, so what are you seeing out there?
So yeah, I would say besides Mitch, Joel is one person, and it was actually a conversation between Mitch and Joel that I was alluding to earlier, where they both kind of, reference to each other, and they haven't come out and declared themselves an alliance, but it's very clear that Mitch and Joel are on the same page, and that it's really been those two, and I guess you could say the brothers, at the core of the voting thus far in the game, where that is kind of the nucleus at the center. The brothers have been very good in that, like I said, they're each kind of working each side, so they do find themselves kind of in the middle as a result of pulling both directions. So I think, but Mitch and Joel especially are very aware of kind of what Tim's doing and what Tim's capable of.
Okay, this is a question from Real BG Low. Can someone adequately explain Vodka Gate? Okay, Alex, can you give us a true sense of what went on in Vodka Gate?
I mean, yeah, so it was the problem was just that I guess Raul and Kelsey and Jared kind of just got a little aggressive, I guess you want to say, or just a little premature in terms of kind of jumping on the vodka before everyone else for a lot of this week, and it certainly seemed to rub Nikki the wrong way. I don't think Nikki was the only one rubbed the wrong way by it, but Nikki was certainly the most vocal about it. It was very, very, I don't think the show did it justice, where Nikki had just a very, very extensive diatribe about how Raul poured himself 2 drinks and kind of took them both upstairs and pounded the one, and came at, she, as she described, just waltzing downstairs with the second drink, and, really did this, ratcheted up to 20 with her, Raul impersonation. It was just this caricature. It was very funny to watch, especially because, she's so over the top in kind of every little diatribe that she gets on, no matter kind of what the issue is, but it really is entertaining. And yeah, I mean, she can't pronounce Raul, so that's making it funny, where she keeps saying Raul and Raul and just, everything but Raul. And yeah, I mean, but, it all came down to the fact that I guess she didn't get enough vodka. And yeah, I mean, it was it was fantastic in terms of entertainment.
So how did the house react to that? Did they have goodwill towards Nikki and feel like that Raul was messed up what he did, or did they take Raul's side?
Yeah, no, I mean, they told Nikki she was overreacting because she was shouting, and I mean, it was really a serious reaction. But could not handle it. She can't deal with that fakeness and that that's what she was saying. But yeah, I mean, Tim then kind of reiterated what she was saying in a nicer way, which is yeah, you guys did kind of you stole the booze. I mean, you just took it upstairs and kind of did your thing, and then you left scraps for those of us that don't sleep in the HOH. It is kind of a bit of just that kind of mentality that you get when you're in the HOH all week. I think it's just me first.
Okay, let's take some other questions. This is from Danny, who says, how frustrating is the show's edit? There was so much game talk happening, but instead all we had was Dallas farting in a jar. Okay, Matt, are you frustrated with what the show has shown you through 3 episodes?
I am mildly frustrated. I'm not at like Red Alert where I'm just jumping into that complaint thing and screaming at Big Brother, but yeah, there was a lot of that, and I know they have to put the sponsor stuff in there. I know that's a part of it. I mean, I think just the biggest problem for me with the edit so far is the first week we had, 2 nights to get through the first eviction and get to know all these people and get to see the international house guests, and there just wasn't enough time to understand what was going on and why Paige was getting sent home. And then this week, we spent so much time getting to know Tim and Nikki, and while that was fun, we still don't really know anybody. And I think that makes it a little bit difficult where, 2 weeks in, you want to have your clear-cut favorites. And right now, it's Tim, Nikki, who a lot of people know from other shows, and, who's next?
Mm-hmm. The show really did not spend a lot of time on the eviction going on this week. It really felt like that was sort of like at the end of the episode, spend the last 5-10 minutes on what was going on with Livita and Shari, and that's about it.
Yeah, it was not a lot of time. And I mean, maybe sometimes, in Big Brother US, they do a little bit of course correction where the next episode picks up and they give you a little bit. But yeah, I really doubt that's going to happen based on the live feeds right now. There's like 3 episodes worth of gold just from today, and we haven't even really talked about the Nikki and Phil thing, whatever's going on there.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm living for this right now, Rob. This is tremendous fun for me. So apparently we have Phil, who claims that he has a crush on Nikki. I don't know. Maybe this is also some sort of task, like with what Alex was talking about with Joel earlier. I don't know. I haven't seen anything of it. But, like, Tim was giving him this, hardcore advice session with Cassandra on what he should do about his crush on Nikki. And it's just such an unusual idea for a couple that it just seems like it would be really, really fun. And I like Phil more than I thought he would. He was total kind of douche mode in the pregame interview. And he's been kind of fun here. And I like the whole unlikely romances because, when Amanda McRae first happened, I was like, oh, this is really exciting. I mean, 3 weeks later, I kind of changed, but I like the unlikely romance.
The heart wants what the heart wants, Matt.
That's right, Rob. I love love. I can't believe I just said that on a podcast.
Livita?
Well, there you go. I love Livita. No, I don't see. No. Way too much going on. No, not a fan.
So, and this is happening. Do we know what Nikki's reaction is to this?
I don't. Are the feeds still on, Alex?
No, I think they're still off.
Okay, yeah, I don't really know precisely how Nick. I don't feel like she knows the full information just yet. I mean, I've heard talk about maybe there will be a date, and dates on the Big Brother are sometimes fun when they're not like Amber and Caleb kind of dates. I know Caleb is well liked right now. I hate to bring back that that scene, but
yeah,
I think there could be fun here.
Don't go there.
No, I know. I will not.
We've made so much progress.
No, yes, exactly. Never said it.
Yeah, okay. Well, strike that from the record. Okay.
Strike it from the record. This is about what I said.
For what it's worth, I mean, Nikki is single, and the great Dawn's Bread on Twitter did send me a picture of the 2 guys she dated in her seasons of BBUK, and yeah, Phil's got a shot. He can definitely date her if she's single, and he's her type, I would think.
Okay. All right, let's take some more questions. Okay. I'm drunker than Moses wants to know, if the house guest had to pick to keep one of the brothers, let's be honest, it'll happen, who would stay? Bill is playing the better game, while Nick, well, who is he? Where did they find him? Do you have power rankings, Alex, for the brothers, Phil and Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. I think Phil is probably playing the stronger game. I think if they were to split them right now, that Phil would also be seen as the bigger threat because, Nick does seem to be lately just kind of isolating himself a bit with Maddie. He seems to really be into Maddie, and yeah, I mean, I know Phil doesn't like that, and I feel like he's kind of working overtime to try to shore up relationships throughout the rest of the house. At the same time, I really, maybe I'm being naive, but I really don't necessarily think that they will split the way the twins did. I really do feel like this is going to be more like the international versions where you've got a pair working in tandem that does throughout the game. I don't think the brothers want that, and I don't know if that would be best for entertainment or strategy purposes, but I do feel like that's the way it's headed.
Okay. And coming into it, I really thought that Nick was going to be better.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
I thought Nick was going to be better too, but maybe it's this whole Nicky thing that now I'm all aboard Team Phil. But one thing that surprised me today when I was talking to Shari was I asked her, out of the people in the house, who does she think is completely obsessed with their game right now? Who does she thinks that they're playing the best game? And she said totally, Phil and Nick. They think they've got this all figured out, and in reality, nobody really knows where their heads are at. Nobody really knows where they stand, so there's not a whole lot of trust there, I guess, with some of the other players. But yeah, right now I think my rankings are Phil, Nick, somewhere off screen.
Okay. All right, let's take a couple more questions. Real BG Low is on fire today. He wants to know, is Phil correct in saying that Nick shouldn't be flirting with Maddie, or is he just being a bit of a douche?
Well,
what do you think, Matt?
Phil's flirting with Nikki. So, I mean, if he's going to flirting all around, I already said I love love, so who am I to, keep these lovebirds apart? But no, I think really Maddie is on the
an awkward scene when the brothers had that moment where they walked into the room and it's like, what, were you just making out? Like, no.
It was a really funny scene, but no, I would be worried about the whole Nick and Maddie thing, because Maddie has not struck me like she's even remotely a good player and that she knows what's going on, and she hates Kelsey, and she's come across as somewhat abrasive, so that's really, I don't think, the ally you want to hitch yourself to if you're the brothers and you're trying to stay in the middle.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, varying points, Maddie has told 2/3 of the house she hates them. That is not the person you want to hitch your wagon to in this game.
Yeah.
This is from Edward Morris, wants to know, is Ramsay the new Adele with less charisma? So what do you think about that? Is he what is Ramsay minus charisma equal, or I'm sorry, Adele minus charisma equal Ramsay?
Go back to bed, Canada.
Yeah. Good night, Canada.
Good night, Canada. I don't think so. I don't think that. I think really the only similarity with them is their heritage, because Ramsay seems to me like he's a little bit more athletic, that he's got a little bit more of this bro personality. They showed him like playing soccer in his opening montage, and Adele's a little bit more enthusiastic. I think Ramsay is going to be somebody who's trying to be a little bit more devious. He's already kind of gotten that mark from a lot of people in the house that they don't really trust him. I just don't think it's working. I don't see a lot of people who are like really in love with Ramsay in the game.
Right. And Adele shared a name with a recording artist. Ramsay just looks like one.
Never will find somebody like, oh man, I just was about to quote Adele. All right, strike that as well.
I will say, though, it sounds like, we didn't see the first week of feeds, but it sounds like Ramsay was really bad the first week, just kind of like making final 2 deals with everybody and stuff. I do feel like he had no idea what he was getting himself into, and he seems to be kind of learning on the fly a bit. And I've seen like a couple things from him today and yesterday that make me feel like if he could survive another couple weeks, he might be able to find himself kind of in an Adele spot where he, was seemingly in trouble early and then somehow manages to kind of like work his way towards the end game anyway.
Okay, let's do one more question. This is from Jameer Floyd. Wants to know, is anyone else impressed that we have old school floaters this season instead of the usual Rachel Riley floaters? Has that been a appealing thing to you so far, Alex?
Yeah, I would say so, I guess. I mean, I don't think I would necessarily peg. I think it's a little early. You know what I mean? I think people aren't necessarily declaring themselves playing a floating game so much as biding their time. Like, I don't think a lot of people would consider Netta a floater, but certainly at this point in the game, like, Netta hadn't established any kind of alliance. And I think, Mitch talks about how he's a big fan of Netta's game and how he knows, a big flip needs to happen at some point, but it's timing. It's when, not who or how. You know what I mean? So I think it speaks more to the stage of the game and the fact that the people who are in there that know this game know that it's early and they're not ready to kind of solidify anything to that degree yet.
Yeah, it's a tried and true Big Brother strategy. Play the middle for a while, get a lay of the land, figure out what's going on, and then make your move. Not the same as somebody who's oblivious for the entire 3 months that they're in the house. So we will see what happens from here on out. All right. Fun recap today. We'll be back again next Friday to talk about everything here with me. Of course, Jordan Parhar, our chief Big Brother Canada analyst. He will be live again Sunday night after the episode and again on Wednesday night after the episode. I believe that this upcoming Sunday he's going to be having Allison from Big Brother Canada 2 on with him as a guest. So be on the lookout for that on robhasawebsite.com, plus also on Reality TV Wrap-Ups. Okay, Matt, always a pleasure to talk with you. You can hear more from Matt at cartermatt.com.
Yes. Thank you very much, Rob. I always have just a lot of fun coming on here. I mean, most of the work that, everybody else does at the site is just, written. So I like to come on here and rant and just get this glorious show out into the world. So I thank you very much.
Besides Big Brother Canada, what else are you working on over at Carter Matt?
Well, right now, we're still doing Survivor interviews. We do those every week, and I've got a page at cartermatt.com/survivor. I know there's a lot of other, fun stuff happening right now, like the CW Today renewed pretty much every show that they have on their schedule, which is kind of crazy to me. So I've been doing a lot of stuff on that. We've been kind of spotlighting some of the Dancing with the Stars people for the coming season, kind of weighing them out, seeing how they're going to do. But, really busy time. I thought after February with sweeps and all that was going to kind of die down a little bit. But, also this weekend, Flaked, which is the new Netflix show with Will Arnett, is premiering. So I'm going to try to binge all that this week and write about it early next week. So we'll see. I might need more caffeine first.
Okay. I hear the Starbucks Flat White is pretty good if you want to check that out.
I may hear that as well, Rob. I think I may have heard that. I heard that maybe from myself earlier today. I'm not sure how that's treating me now.
All right, and you can follow Matt on Twitter. He's at Matt Carter Media on Twitter. And, of course, the great Alex Kidwell. Alex, always a pleasure to talk with you. And you and I will be chatting this Sunday night when you are filling in for the birthday boy, Josh Wigler, who is celebrating a very exciting birthday today. That he's on a trip this weekend, and you and I will be talking Walking Dead this Sunday night on post-show recaps.
Yeah, how about that? We can have some birthday beet and acorn cookies for him.
Yeah. So, and you filled in for me last week on post-show recaps. It was you and Josh that you're basically the Raoul to the Jared and Kelsey of me and Josh Wigler.
Yeah, and I steal the vodka, too.
Yeah. All right. So I pulled the chat room on what the hashtag should be. Taryn Armstrong felt very strongly denim filter needed to be the hashtag for this episode of the podcast.
Let's go with it.
Yeah. Always important to remember. Okay. Without that, things just go way too far. Tonight, also, I will be live to talk about the 5th episode of The Amazing Race 28 with Jessica Leese. That's going to be live at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the social media edition of The Amazing Race. Matt, do you keep up with The Amazing Race?
Oh, I do. I have never missed an episode of The Amazing Race. I think that's one of the few shows I can legitimately say that from start to finish. I've been there almost live the entire time. And I will tell you, I was really worried. I thought that this was just going to be 22 Frankie Grande's going into this season. I'm sorry I brought his name into the podcast, but no, it's turned out to be really fun. I like it. I like the geography of it. I don't think... Oh no, it's happening. Okay, no.
Speaking of Frankie Grande, I'll also be recapping the Saturday Night Live this weekend on post-show recaps as well, hosted by the lesser-known sister of Frankie Grande, Ariana.
Oh, and by the way, I love the SNL post-show recaps. They may be one of my favorite things that you do.
Thank you very much. I feel like it's very under the radar. Rich Tackenberg does a very good job bringing on SNL each week.
Frankie will be in the front row for sure.
Oh, they will not be able to, with a stun gun, they won't be able to keep him off the stage.
No, he's getting on that stage.
All right, what a big week for Big Brother 16. All right, so that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks so much to Scott St. Pierre for pulling the questions. Don't forget about Jordan on Sunday night, live after the episode. And if you missed any of his recaps from the week, you can catch them as well on Reality TV Wrap-Ups. If you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, stay tuned for my exit interview with Shari. And looking forward to talking more Big Brother Canada next Friday. Take care, everybody.